All right, so I'm going to get started. So just want to introduce myself. My name's Griffin Burke. I've been at BioConnect almost 5 years now. I started working on the technical support team and then made my way over into sales as a solutions engineer first, and then started working mostly on sales. And then I work on some of our bigger accounts as a sales, slash account manager. So for some of our biggest accounts that, do a lot of our work and need a little bit more, one-on-one support from the sales team here specifically at BioConnect. So I'm going to jump right in. For some of you who aren't that familiar with BioConnect, we've been around for 10 years. Typically in the past, we've been focused on securing physical locations. So we got our start working on doors, within access control systems and bringing biometrics to the door and helping, the technology that was biometrics and helping that transition over into typical access control. So we started with our BioConnect Enterprise software, which really served as like a translation piece between biometrics and access control systems. So that allowed people with big access control systems to start using biometrics seamlessly, have the two software systems actually work together. So it would eliminate a lot of the, manual entry that, we were seeing in the market before we entered it, and also making sure that there's, a more seamless integration between the two softwares. We've also moved into some of the digital applications. So we actually do secure with our biometric technology, we do secure some mobile applications as well as some online business banking for certain institutions. So just always, improving and adding trust to transactions is, the bottom line to what we do in all of our businesses. But these are kind of been the two brands that we've been working with in the past, 5 to 10 years. And I'm going to explain to you how we can actually focus those two specifically on the data center and colocation markets. And how BioConnect can make you guys successful. So for those attending, if you work specifically for a data center, you'll probably find a lot of this hits close to home. And for those who are more on the dealer side, security integrators, hopefully you have something new to bring to your customers as some success cases that we've had. So I'm going to specifically talk about the BioConnect Enterprise software and what we offer and how we can make it successful for the data center and colo markets. So to begin, what makes BioConnect different in the access control world for data centers is that we can secure everything from the office entrance all the way down to a customer cabinet. And we deliver this in a very secure way that allows to make the data center customers have a secure but also seamless experience every time they enter a data center to get into their cabinets, to get into their server rooms, to get into their cage, whatever it may be. And so this is kind of the offering that BioConnect provides that we're able to offer the customers once they start to get going with our solutions. Before I get into the products, I kind of want to just highlight how successful we've been in the DC and colo market. So this is hands down our most successful market. Obviously, they have higher security needs. They're holding on to a lot of sensitive data. They also have a lot of compliance to deal with, based on the data that they are protecting. And what's made BioConnect really successful is how we're able to seamlessly integrate into these intricate data centers and colocations. So we're proud to say that we actually are in securing 8 out of the 10 of the top biggest data centers in North America. It goes a little bit down when you look outside of North America, but if you can see some of the customers that I've got on the slide here, these are certainly some market leaders in terms of data center size that we're actually helping to secure. These are the big fish that we go after, and we've been pretty successful in doing so. A lot of these data centers have used both our fingerprint and facial technology at a lot of their locations. And I'm going to get into what makes us so successful once we get into these. But as you can see, again, some big names here and they've been successful rolling out their data center security using our biometric devices made by Suprema, as well as some of the other manufacturers that we incorporate. And then obviously using the BioConnect Enterprise platform, which is really what is the glue that holds everything together. So I want to get going by highlighting the three big things that make us most successful, and then I'm going to go into more detail about all three. And this is why we've seen that we've been able to win a lot of the data center and colo markets in North America. And again, we are continuing and trying to attack the other markets, the other global markets as well. So the first one is privacy and security. This kind of goes, this is quite obvious for a data center. These institutions are built on security and privacy and making it so that their customers have, a safe place to store their data, as well as providing, the internet speeds and everything else that goes along with it. But everything is built on this foundation. The second thing I'm going to talk to you about is how we can scale and how we can scale differently, specifically to how we can market our product to data centers, especially data centers that have a global reach. And then the third is the flexibility of our platform to actually incorporate different biometric vendors to work with 20 of the top access control platforms that are out there today, and then provide the data center with a full solution when they do decide to go forward with us. Before I hop right in, if there's any questions, just put in the Zoom meeting. I've got a little window up with Christina here. She'll Slack me any of your questions, and I'll get to them at the end, or as I see them if it fits with what I'm talking about. So I'm going to hop right into privacy and security. And here we go. So this is what our BioConnect Enterprise looks like. This is the software that will manage, when it comes down to it, it manages the two biggest things, which is the hardware component, which is our biometric devices, as well as the access control integrations. It also does a load of other things. We have, comprehensive analytics and reporting tools. It's easy to look at. It's helpful when you actually, enroll the biometrics. Everything is in a very organized way. There's a lot of built-in flexibility on permissions and who can see what. It's also built to scale, so we can get up around 250,000 users plus. Some of our biggest deployments are actually over 1 million users. Some of these access control databases that have been, around for 10 to 15 years do gather a lot of user information, and then BioConnect is had no problem integrating all of those users. We have a lot of different options once you get into the software. So flexible authentication options, meaning that you can use cards plus biometrics, cards plus pins. You can use user IDs plus cards, whatever it may be, whatever iteration of those 3 or 4 options, we can do it. We have stuff like single sign-on, stuff that can connect into your Active Directory to make it very, very easy for the users who are actually using the software. When it comes down to it, we really want our BioConnect to be running in the background. We want to allow the access control systems to do what they do. They're the ones who grant access. They're the ones who are going to have all of the rules for who has access to what doors during what times. What BioConnect sets out to do is properly identify that user at the door and make a trusted authentication. So when a user comes up, if they're using a card plus fingerprint, what we're going to do is we're going to add that added layer of security by adding in the biometrics and making sure that it's not just somebody coming up with their card, and actually forcing that biometric authentication as well. We've also got a different option that I'm going to talk about, where we actually use mobile devices and two-factor mobile authentication. So using trusted digital security tools such as Okta, Duo, and Ping ID to actually make it a more trustful authentication for the access control platform. When I talk about security, there are the two big things that come up with our data security, and that's hardware and software security. So all of our devices are built, with strongly protected, strong authentication, strong transport layer communication, and then a lot of encryption. All of that is actually encrypted in the devices as well as in the database. We use TLS 1.2 for all the communication. All of the data that's sitting in our database is encrypted and sits as an algorithm. So if someone were to get access to your database, they wouldn't be able to see the fingerprints. We don't even actually store the fingerprints as images. We store them as, basically lines of code that cannot be reverse engineered into a fingerprint. So even if there was an attack and someone were to get into a database, they wouldn't actually be able to get anything out of it. And then the same goes for our devices as well. If someone were to pull a device off the wall, they would be able to take, they would be able to see what's inside the device. However, they're not going to be able to do anything with it. And that's how we, when we're selling into these data center and colo markets, that's how we really add trust in BioConnect. So, data centers and colos are always looking about, what's coming in on the outside, trying to prevent attacks, whether they be internal or external. And what we do is, we give them the peace of mind to know that if they do get anything, if they can get a hold of anything, either a hardware or a software, they're not going to be able to do anything with it. And that's kind of that's a guarantee that we add to the data center so that they don't have to worry about their biometric devices. We're the ones doing that for them. We also offer something that is, really alone in the market, in the biometric market, and what we call the BioConnect CyberShield. So when you're looking at the typical installation, I just kind of mentioned what we've already got in terms of security. We had a customer a couple of years back that said, that's great, but that's not good enough. And they went around shopping this idea to a lot of the other biometric vendors, and we were the ones that said, yeah, we're going to take on this project and we're going to tackle, all of the demands that they wanted. And what came out of it was BioConnect CyberShield. And what this does is this is just like an added layer of security on all of your devices and all of the communication between the devices and the software itself. So what we've added is a lot of TLS certificates, so certificates that are custom in the customer network that can expire, that if somebody tries to hack, they're going to be able to know. You can't connect a device with a certificate to a server that doesn't have the exact same certificate, that sort of stuff. We've also added, 8021X network compatibility, some IPv4 and IPv6 dual stack network support, increased encryption in terms of, software and hardware. We have a model of our device that customers use where if you pull the device off the wall and the tamper is activated, the device is almost going to go into like a self-destruct mode. And so it's going to erase everything in its memory so that even if someone got onto it, it's going to be a blank slate. And so specifically for the data center and colo market, we do believe that this is a valuable asset. They have in the data center and colo market, again, they have a lot of stringent regulations on how the communication in their networks go. So what's different with their biometric devices? These are devices that are going to sit on the network. So we actually built something out that will meet the compliance and regulation of a data center. Typically, this is something that we would get very involved in. If you have any questions on this, we've provided solutions where you don't actually need all 6 of these options. If you're looking for just 1 or 2 of them, that's something that we can work out and make it so that not only do you have a more secure software platform, but you also have more secure and hardened devices that are actually sitting out on the walls, next to doors, on data cages, on front entrances, on cabinets, whatever it may be. The next thing I want to talk to you specifically about is scale and how BioConnect scales well with data centers to make it a seamless experience for your customers. So a lot of the current problems that are facing the large colos and data centers out there in the market is the fact that you have a lot of different sites, a lot of different access platforms that are put together in different cities. If you have something in the US, you've got other stuff in Europe, it doesn't always speak the same language. For example, if somebody enrolls at a data center in Silicon Valley and then they fly over to Toronto, they would have to enroll again. And so what BioConnect does is we've actually created a platform that can make it so that you can actually have all of your biometrics live on one system. What this does is it allows a more seamless experience for your customer. They don't have to worry about having a secondary card. They don't have to worry about re-enrolling every time they go to a new data center. This is something that BioConnect is going to take care of after. And what this does is it actually takes a lot of the onus off the data center security team, because when you are when you are working with different access control systems and different cards, it's a very manual process. And not only is it more prone to security risks and human error, but it also decreases the customer experience for not only the data security team, but also for the people who are experiencing this. There's a lot of friction. Especially if your company uses a data center for 4 or 5 different locations, and having to enroll at each one can be a little troublesome, and it's just not a smooth experience. So I want to get a little bit into the architecture of BioConnect and how we would be able to scale. So the first thing I want to show you is this is our typical regional server architecture. So this is what we would be able to host to up to 300 devices on our BioConnect platform. I'm not going to get into too much detail about it, but as you can see, there is the access control system. There is a user sync over to the BioConnect system. That's where we're actually going to pull the access control names and card numbers over into our own database. And that's where we're going to manage all the devices and the biometric enrollments, as well as the biometric authentications. Once we've had an authentication, we're going to be able to send that over into the access control panel. And the panel is what is going to decide whether that user has access or not. So for a lot of the smaller locations, we are going to use a system like this. Even if they have different data centers, you can have, as long as it's in the same network, you can have a lot of different readers pointed towards the exact same the exact same BioConnect server, and then you can manage it through the software to make sure that someone at location A doesn't have access to location B if they don't want it. The next architecture I'm going to show you specifically as to how we can scale with a lot of the larger installations that are around the world. And what we're calling this is just our master and regional BioConnect server architecture. So this is a little bit more complicated, a little bit more comprehensive than our typical standalone, one-to-one to access control. But it's important to note, because this is a really good platform for those bigger data centers and colocations that want to have separate servers, either because they want to separate it geographically themselves, or they've run out at their 300 device limit and need to expand into secondary servers. So the way this architecture works is you're still going to have your access control sync, and that'll be done between the master BioConnect server and the master access control server. It could even be a regional server, but we want it to be the master just because we want to have the latest and up-to-date user information that's in the access control regional servers. We want to have access to that right away so that we can push that out. And so I've got what looks like 3 different servers up here. And so you can see that there are 3 BioConnect regional servers. These regional servers are responsible for pulling the information out of the mass that's new that they don't have. So if somebody were to go and enroll in Toronto, what the BioConnect regional and the master are going to communicate, they're actually going to pull that template out of the regional server. They're going to store it in the master, and then they're going to distribute it to each of the regional servers that are connected to it, so that if you enroll in Toronto, within 5 minutes, that card as well as that biometric are going to be at all of the different cities that you have connected, or different servers, I should say. So I've got Montreal and London up here, and so you'll be able to get on a plane, fly to another location, and you're not going to have to re-enroll. In terms of how the hardware works, it'll be very similar to how does in the other one. We're still going to send a weekend, or we do have OSDP compatibility on all of our devices as well, to the access control system, so that the access control system is really who's going to decide if they get through the door at that specific location. Again, BioConnect is just going to make sure that it's the person they say it is, with a card and a biometric authentication. The third thing I want to talk to you about specifically is flexibility. This section will be a little bit longer. I'm going to run through all of the products, but this is what makes BioConnect successful, is that we do have the flexibility to use different hardware manufacturers, as well as different types of authentication. So I'm going to go through each of these right now. So we kind of broken it down into 4 categories, and I'm going to talk to you about how we're actually bringing the 2 together. So traditionally, BioConnect has worked in 4 verticals. We've worked on doors, we've worked in data centers, on cabinets, we've worked on applications, and then we've had our unified access, which is using mobile authentication, using mobile devices to be that trusted source of authentication. In BioConnect 5.0, what we're doing is we're actually bringing those 4 verticals together, and we're making it so that you can actually kind of have the best of all of the worlds into one platform. So you'll be able to use our traditional BioConnect software that will integrate into access control platform, that will manage the biometric devices, that will manage the biometric enrollments and templates, as well as our B-Link console, which is our mobile authentication. And our mobile authentication, which is, I'll talk about a little bit later, but this is a slightly different software because it actually uses digital security tools and does need to hit the cloud. And it needs to hit the cloud in order to actually start using the digital security tools. And what we've done in BioConnect 5.0 is we've actually made it so that the 2 can act together. Now, traditionally, in the data center and colo market, aware that a lot of these systems want to be offline. The data center security teams will not want their software to be anywhere on the cloud, and that's perfectly okay. When we bring these 2 together, if there's no internet connection, there just won't be a cloud. If you do want to incorporate this other MFA solution and use the cloud, we can do so in a very secure way and make it so that you don't have to give access to the entire BioConnect system. We'll just be able to push out when we need to. So now that I've kind of explained a little bit more about the software and what makes BioConnect a little bit different, I'm gonna go over the hardware that we do provide. So I'm gonna start with our brand new device that Suprema has just released. I should explain, for those who don't know, Suprema is our best and most trusted partner. They are the actual biometric hardware manufacturer out of South Korea. We've worked with them for about 10 years. We're very close with them. We love their devices. We love the way they work. We love the security that's built into them. We love the speed of these devices. And you know, this has always been our main line of biometrics, and we've been very happy with them so far. And so Suprema's just released a new device called the Face Station F2. The reason we're so excited about it was for a couple of reasons. The first one being the scaling of this device. Typically in the past, facial biometrics have been a little bit harder to scale with. The number of users that can live in these devices and that can, you know, make a secure authentication has always been a little bit lower than our biometric fingerprints in the past. And so for these larger data centers and colos that have larger access control systems, there hasn't been a facial device that we've really trusted to push as it hasn't been able to scale well. But as you can see on the bottom right here, with a one-to-one authentication, we're actually up to 100,000 users, which is a card plus face. And then we are 1 to 50,000 users with a face only. So we are very excited about this. It's also got an extremely low false acceptance rate. And it's also, you know, it's using 2 different types of technology. So it can actually make a verification directly off of the face of a picture that is sent in. So there can be remote enrollments. I know with COVID, you know, everybody's world has changed. So remote enrollments are possible. And it also uses Suprema's facial recognition to enroll a more in-depth face when the person is actually on site and able to enroll. Along the thinking of the 2020 and where this pandemic has brought us, they've also actually built in a lot of cool new features that, you know, frankly are extremely important in our new world today. So at the top of this reader here is what is a thermal camera. So this thermal camera can actually provide the user with information right as they're enrolling. So it can let them know if their temperature is too high. What the user wants to do with that information is up to them. If they want to deny access, that's okay. If they want to let them go, that's okay too. But this is certainly something that's just it's gonna provide an audit trail for anybody who may have entered the access control platform, and then you can always go back and see who was around that user at the time. It also has mask detection built into it. So if you wanted to enforce a mask on policy inside your data center or colo, you can certainly do that. And a user won't be able to gain access to the door wherever they're trying to get through if they do not have a mask on. And we're still going to be able to provide a trusted authentication by just using the upper half, using the eyes and the top, the bridge of your nose to make that authentication. So I want to keep going on some of our Suprema devices. So I've got 5 up here that, you know, for those who are more familiar with BioConnect, this is certainly something you've probably seen before. So I've got 5 devices. A lot of these devices are outdoor rated, so can sit outside in all different sorts of climates. Suprema does a lot of business in the Middle East, so they get some really, really high temperatures. And these devices have acted very well. BioConnect is actually up in the Great White North. We're up in Canada, so I've seen these devices firsthand sit on doors outside and survive Canadian winters, and they do act very well through all of these conditions. We've also got devices that provide different types of card compatibility. So if you're using iClass, Prox, or MyFair, we have a model that will be able to read all of those. We've also got models with pin pads, some touch screens that can add a finger plus pin or card plus finger plus pin option as well. For most of our access control partners, we actually would synchronize over the same pin that sits in the ACM database. So it's not like you're managing different pins if you have keypads other places in your data center or colo market. And then we've got our Face Station 2, which is another device that does facial recognition, but as I mentioned, it doesn't scale. It can hold up to 30,000 users in a 1-to-1 ratio, and 3,000 in a face-only environment. So we do have a lot of successful deployments of the Face Station 2 in the data center and colo market so far. However, the reason we're really excited about the new device is just because of the scale that it provides. And then kind of on the right here, I've got a couple more models, kind of some lower end stuff. Some of these devices are PoE, some of the devices are 12 volt only. Again, we integrate all of the, Suprema devices, thinking that we can hit different parts of the market. If you're looking for different things, if PoE is a must have, we have those devices. If it's not a must have and you're looking at a little bit lower of a price point on a device, we have those available as well. And so if you're ever curious, you can head to our website. All the information is on there if you're looking specifically for any hardware details. All right, so that kind of wraps up what I want to talk about Suprema. I want to get into what we're calling our 2FA and mobile authentication. So I should actually start with the next slide and I'll move backwards. So what the BioConnect link provides customers is the ability to retrofit existing card-only systems, as well as, you can also install this in any system. And the use case is quite simple. What we do is we are going to read the weakened signal or OSDP signal from the card that's tapped at a reader. And what we're going to do is we're going to slightly intercept that weakened transmission, again, or OSDP transmission, and we're going to force a step-up authentication to the user's mobile device. This is a great opportunity for a lot of card-only data centers that are out there that perhaps don't have the budget or the money to go out and completely retrofit devices that are on the wall. What we do is we add at a much slower cost the ability to actually increase your security with the existing hardware that you currently have. And what we've done is we've actually integrated in 3 of the most trusted digital security companies that are out there. So that's Duo, Ping ID, and Okta. We've also provided our own biometric verification through the BC ID mobile app, which is our own mobile application. And then we've also got some SMS compatibility as well. And what we do is we actually provide the user's mobile phone with that step-up verification to make sure it's them. So similar to how when you place a card and then a fingerprint, all you're doing is using your fingerprint to verify that is the correct card holder and transmitting that information over to the access control platform. This is the same use case. It's just a little bit different in how you go about using it. And in this platform, we're actually using the mobile device to force that step up. So a user would go ahead and tap the card. The BioConnect link is the software and hardware. What we're going to do is we are going to understand that, okay, this is John Smith's card number. The card number is 1234. What we're going to do is we're going to have in the back end your card information associated with a digital security step up. And what we're going to do is push that out to John Smith's phone, and so that John Smith actually has to be the one to verify that. And as I mentioned, we can do so in a couple of different ways. How we're doing that right now is we're actually using what we're calling the BioConnect Link device, which is a device that's you can install close to the access control panel that will serve as the intermediary between the card reader and the access control platform. This is a device that can serve up to 4 different doors on your access control system. So it's really easy to install. All you need to do is actually just retrofit the wire that you've actually got. There's nothing required in terms of pulling new wire. And this device it'll be stood up on just one single PoE Ethernet adapter. And the device, and you can light up 4 doors using the step up modification, or step up hardware. The next thing I want to talk about is about the link software. So obviously this is what's going to be working on the back end. This is how we're going to be able to associate.
For more information, visit our website at bioconnect.com.
Within one of the digital security tools that you're using. We are kind of piggybacking on the access control manufacturers' things that we've already built out into BioConnect Enterprise. So for existing customers, you can know that this is the trusted way we've been doing it. And we've slightly modified it because we do need to hit the cloud to hit those 2 FA tools. But it is very similar. And again, in BioConnect 5.0, we are actually converging those 2 systems together so that you can seamlessly manage not only your biometrics and your typical access control biometric setup using card plus finger, but you can also start to use the 2FA system. And instead of having to manage a separate software system, a separate identity for each user, there will be one identity, and that's going to be the identity that's driven through your access control. And all you'll need the BioConnect to do is manage the templates as well as manage the unique identifier within the digital security tools. And then obviously the last component is the actual user's mobile device. And a lot of the biggest concern we hear about this is I can't tell someone to use I can't ask someone to pay, or a customer to pay for a Duo or Okta account because we're going to be enforcing this. And so we have a lot of different options, including our own BioConnect mobile application, which you can get on the App Store or Google Play Store, as well as the ability to do SMS, so which is very easy. Just respond with a yes or a no. I think it's just a Y or an N to be able to say, yes, this is me trying to get to this door right now. I want to talk a little bit more about the the multi-factor authentication that is available on the mobile device. And so in the world of a Duo or an Okta or a Ping ID, all you're really doing once you get that notification to say the card has been swiped at this door, all you're really doing is granting an access yes or no once you're in the phone. What the mobile biometric authentication using the BCID mobile app does is it actually allows you, it forces you, I should say, to use a different mobile biometric authentication. And so you can get into your iPhone right here. I guess you can't really see it, but you can get into your phone using the Apple or the Samsung security tools, but you actually need to step up the BioConnect app and do a different facial recognition to grant access to that door. And this is how the data center can actually control, who's enrolling, as opposed to, if you pick up an iPhone and it's unlocked, you can enroll any face into it. The device also has a yes or no. So if you're not interested in that feature and you don't currently use one of the security tools. BioConnect does have a a approved deny function as well. And then the third thing I wanted to mention, which we've seen gaining a lot of traction, again, obviously the pandemic has shifted our thoughts in our world, but we actually have what we're calling the wellness declaration. So this is a very short survey that can be pushed out to the user's mobile phone and through the BC mobile app again. And what you have to do is you have to declare, certain questions that, are customizable to where the data center or colo is based on, whatever regulations you're currently dealing with at that time, but you're actually making the customer declare that, they're in good health, they haven't traveled outside of that state or province, and whatever it may be, that these are customizable. So whatever you're looking for, you can actually step that up. Now, that's not something that you're going to need to do at every door inside your colocation or data center. However, it could be very useful for a lot of the high entry points, and it'll also give you a lot of auditing structure that may have not been there in the past, specifically around people being sick and entering the office. All right, so the next thing I want to quickly talk about is the LR1, which is kind of bringing the two different systems together. I've already mentioned how we're doing it from a software standpoint, but what we've actually done is released and branded our own Suprema device to do this at the hardware level as well. So this is kind of getting both worlds. You're getting the ability to do the typical fingerprint biometric plus a card, as well as the possibility to do a link step up. And what this provides the data center or co-location is the ability to do a 3-factor step-up authentication. It allows users to, if they haven't enrolled, how to do it at home. You can just add their card number as well as their unique identifier and make it so that the user can come in without having to do that enrollment. Again, during these times, a lot of different variations of issues with enrollments are certainly out there. And so this is a device that will actually sit with the BioConnect link hardware and software compatibility built into it. So this is like a Swiss Army knife of devices. And it's because it's an IoT device, we actually have a lot of room to, improve on stuff. And if there are certain needs that a data center wants, because again, it's an IoT device that's sitting on the wall, we can actually do a lot of different stuff with it. And so we're really excited about this. This again is going to be available with the launch of BioConnect 5.0, which is towards the end of this year. And again, I said a Swiss Army knife. It's really the best way to do it. You're going to be able to change the way you authenticate at your data centers. And so again, we're really, really excited about this. A lot of the information on this device is already on our website. If you want anything more, you can reach out to myself or one of the other strategic account managers at BioConnect. All right. I've gone a little bit over time. I'm going to hit the last part of the flexibility section, and that's actually cabinet access control. So I mentioned right off the top that we can work with data centers to secure the front door all the way down to the cabinet. And what I'm going to talk to you about is the two different ways that we can do that. So we currently support 2 different platforms to actually secure and step up the security that's actually on the cabinet door. Now, for a lot of data centers and for a lot of the bigger customers, there might not be a requirement to actually have a step-up authentication. Either it's because maybe the customer controls that entire room or controls that entire cage, and so they're the only ones who are allowed granted access into it. However, what we provide is like a 24/7 monitoring system of these devices. So yes, it's great to say that no one should be allowed to get into that room. However, if it's just a lock, a typical lock and key that sits on the door, you're not going to have an audit trail. You're not going to have any monitoring. You're not going to have any alerts, that can let the data center security team know that either a breach has occurred or someone's trying to get into someone else's cabinet. And so that's what I would say for, more of the warehousing type data centers. We do provide a lot of value in just the fact that we are a monitoring system for your data center cabinets. The second thing I want to talk about is co-locations. Obviously, colos, typically, you could have different customers in the same data center hall, as well as maybe in the same room. You know, you've got a lot of customers that are only, you know, maybe renting out a one particular cabinet front and back, and they're looking for an increased level of security because they don't know who the person next to them is. And so in that case, this is what becomes a really, really valuable security feature that we can add to your portfolio. And you know, maybe you don't add it into, when you're looking at a data center and how they're selling, maybe you don't add it into, you know, every cabinet offering that you have. But if someone is looking for increased security, faster internet speeds, this can be a really good tool to push across that sale as well, because you're actually adding more monitoring capability as well as more security to the actual data center cabinet. The two ways that we can do that is the more traditional way that we do. We work with the Digitus Biometrics, and we actually have a fingerprint reader that sits directly on the cabinet as well as the card reader. And so that's the image that you're seeing here. This can actually be utilized within the same BioConnect Enterprise. You can manage the devices all in the same console as it is. And then I want to talk about how we're actually using our 2FA in order to do the same thing. So again, before I showed the way how you would actually tap a card, get the mobile step up and open the door. This is very similar in the use case for the actual user. However, what we're doing is we're adding a little bit more security inside the cabinet by actually installing the B-Link hardware itself inside the cabinet so that it acts as like a mini access control system. And so when the card is tapped, using one of our locks, when the card is tapped at the cabinet, you're going to get that step up verification to your phone. And then the BioConnect link is actually going to be the one that grants you access. We've actually built in little reader ports on it, as well as relays, so that we'll synchronize over the access control information, and then we'll act as like a little bit of a cabinet access management system. And these things are extremely easy to install for the data center. The only thing that they need to pull to the actual cabinet is one PoE Ethernet cable into the cabinet. That will actually light up the B-Link as well as the two card locks that sit on the cabinet. And then again, it adds a layer of security because it is a 2FA solution. And then it also adds a layer of security that doesn't exist on manual locks or traditional key locks, because it does provide a monitoring system. It'll always allow you who got into that cabinet. It'll also give you the information of if a door is open, if any of the tampers have been activated. So it's a really, it's a game changer for when you get down to the cabinet level. We're actually providing something that hasn't been traditionally there in the data center and colocation market. All right, I am done talking. I hope this was helpful. I know I probably rambled on pretty quickly, and maybe you guys have some questions. I see one from Ricardo. Hey, Ricardo, I will absolutely talk to you about the certifications that live on the device, the certificates I could say. That's certainly something that we can have a discussion about. So I'm happy to do that. All right, I'm just seeing Christina's asking some other questions. Okay, this is a good question. The question was, what do I believe the best solution for data center security is post-COVID? Again, our world has changed. And so I think that with the introduction of the F2, what we're able to do is we're able to provide a touchless solution. We're also able to do that with our 2FA step up. So I think that's a lot of concerns that I've heard from my customers and their data center customers is they don't want to touch the readers. They don't want to put their fingerprints on it. They don't know who's tested them. So the reason we're very excited again about the F2 is because it does offer a touchless option, as well as the MFA authenticator as well. All you have to do is tap your card. You don't actually have to touch anything. You do the verification on your own phone. Now, obviously, installing or retrofitting an existing system will be difficult. So a lot of the customers I've spoken to are actually just looking to go touchless on those high traffic areas. If there's a data center, door that isn't actually accessed by a lot of people, you probably don't need touchless. If it's only one company and there's only a handful of customers that actually go in, maybe you don't require a touchless biometric on that door. However, at the front, if there are turnstiles, if it's a front door, a lot of people are touching it. I really think that our touchless options are certainly going to be the most helpful in that case. Awesome. I am thinking we are going to wrap this up. Yep, doesn't look like there are any questions. Guys, thank you so much for joining. I had a lot of fun. I know I talked probably pretty quickly, but I really enjoyed talking about it. I've added my contact info here below. Close that. I've added my contact info here below. You can always go find out anything on our website. We've got some really cool tools to help you get started, including a solution builder. So if you kind of just want to poke around and see what might be the right fit, we do have a lot of cool questions that'll get you there. And so again, thank you everyone for joining my session, and thank you for joining the BioConnect digital event today. I think we have some more webinars this afternoon, so stay tuned for those, guys. Thank you very much.
For more information, visit our website at bioconnect.com.